Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series, our typically twice weekly show on a Tuesday and a Friday. But during the international break, as discussed on a couple of shows this week, it's an excuse to get a bit selfish, to be honest, because we're bored, because international football is, well, rubbish. And so it's a little bit of an opportunity to get a little bit selfish and to go down more of a personal route and the things that we content creators like to enjoy about in our own lives. And one of the things that I know a lot of you listeners are aware of is the fact that my kind of passion for drum and bass does bleed into the show a lot. And with the rebranding that's coming on the channel, there's going to be a lot more of it. And one of the ways in which we're going to try and do that today is with a fantastic piece of interview content for you. So let me just introduce my guest. I'm joined today by Ed, aka Friction. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
I am very good, man. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. I can't promise you that all of the listeners are going to be that well versed in the world of drum and bass because they're uneducated, partly. But the second part, of course, is it's fantastic to have you on. I'm sure, hopefully, a lot more people that watch the show have gradually got into talking about drum and bass a lot more through my own passion for it. But I really appreciate you taking the time out of your afternoon, fella.
All good. I'm glad to be here, mate. And it was quite interesting listening because I was going to mention, obviously, we're in the international break, and I was like, do I say how much I hate the international break? And you kind of already said it for me. So it's like, I hate the international break. I literally dread it. When you look at the fixtures, right, and I look at the Arsenal fixtures, and I'm like, oh, we've got 2 weeks off there. Oh, it's going to be the international break that weekend, isn't it? And it's literally, It fills me with dread because I don't know. Obviously, I support Arsenal a lot more than I do England.
Yeah, just honestly, the sense of dread leading up to it, and you just know there's no Arsenal. But to be fair, this season's not gone amazing. So some people have said it's a bit of a reprieve, which I think it was maybe earlier on in the season. But as things start to pick up, yeah, you just kind of want Arsenal to come back, basically. We will get on to talking a lot about Arsenal, but to kick things off, I wanted to talk a bit about yourself. And just kind of talking to how you got to where you are and where you are at with Elevate and yourself and with going on with Radio 1 involved in your career. So tell me the story about how we get to where you are today.
I think it's just a lot of hard work, really. I was into drum and bass from school. Well, it was more jungle music then. And I was a massive fan, and I used to sort of, all my mates would be sort of like just sneaking into pubs. I'd be sneaking up to London and trying to get in somehow to, like, there was a club called the Laserdrome, a few other London sort of like clubs that had jungle music or what was to be drum and bass. And I just fell in love with it. And I'd go up to London and just watch the DJs and basically think, this is me, this is what I want to do. And, kind of that was going to be my life. So, yeah, basically, did that, worked hard, kept sending tapes and demos to promoters and trying to get myself into clubs or whatever, and develop my career as time's gone on. And I'm lucky enough to travel the world and do what I love, which is like, I think if whatever you do in life, if you can earn money by doing what you love, I think that's something that you got to be thankful for every day, which I am. So yeah, I definitely wake up I wake up thinking about drum and bass, and I go to bed thinking about it. So it's like it never leaves my mind. That and Arsenal, basically.
Yeah, of course, which can be equally as painful at times, for sure.
Definitely.
It's interesting you talk about kind of like sending tapes continuously. Coming from my own kind of background of now writing about football full time and being a teacher previously, that was pretty much my route into writing about football, was just constantly sending emails to all of these companies saying, like, look, here's what I can do, here's my stuff, give me a shot, which has now happened this year. But like for yourself, you got into into Radio 1 and doing their drum and bass show very late in the evening. How did that kind of come about, getting into Radio 1, and what ultimately led you to finish that time with the BBC?
Yeah, it had been, I mean, I was actually getting on a plane to Japan, and my manager phoned me. This was probably 8 years ago or something, and he said, oh, Radio 1 on the phone, they want you to take over the drum and bass show. And previously, it had been done by Fabio and Groove Rider, two absolute legends who have influenced many of us. And so it's a big job for me to take over. And I took it on, and as time went on, I really got more into my production as well, because I'd originally started off as just a DJ.
Yeah.
I've never been too hot on my own production. You know, I made a few things, but it's only been the last few years when I've really got into and really developed my production. So as Radio 1 went on, so did my production. And I was trying to write my debut album, and I just didn't have time. DJing, you know, running a record label, family, and trying to sort of like make tunes and do the radio. It was just too, I literally didn't sleep. You know, if I got 4 hours a night, I'd be happy, sort of thing. So it got to the point where I had to let something go. And it was the show, which I'd sort of begrudgingly, you know, like let it go and said that I wasn't going to be able to do it anymore. But the sort of 5 or 6 years I did it, what an experience to, you know, to be in there and to be presenting the music that I love to the world and be responsible for the world hearing drum and bass music and what's new. It was a great experience. But I'm very happy now just making my music, doing shows, or not so many shows over the last year, but that's what I love. And I've got my record labels and still got a lot on. I still don't sleep that much, but you know, it's a little bit more, you know, I can just about keep up with it. So, exactly.
Yeah, I hear it's like, and that process, of course, where you're delivering to all of the drum and bass listeners, like what's new, the stuff that's coming out, stuff that has come out, educating people as to what new music is. Does that, in a way, did that give you inspiration to maybe change your sound slightly or go off in different directions? Like this, constantly listening to these new songs, and I know people do it anyway, but of course, but actually having to kind of present them to the world in a way, does that help you with your production of your stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think something that drum and bass does so well, and that, you know, what helps so many people to be into it is it takes influence from so many other types of music. So you've got, you know, ambient drum and bass, you've got the jungle orientated stuff, you've got the sort of heavy kind of like, you know, electro based stuff. You've got so many influences of types of music. You know, originally the old jungle stuff was influenced from a lot of rare groove. You know, like there's so much there. There's so many different ways for people to get into it. And it's the same with me. I like so many different types of music. I was brought up sitting in the back of my car when my dad was going to work and, you know, like listening to old soul music and jazz. And, you know, so I come from there. I used to like indie music and grunge, you know, like I love hip hop. Like I genuinely love all types of music. So drum and bass is the sort of genre for me because it takes a lot of those genres and puts them into it. So I think that's why I love it so much. And that's why I'm very sort of, you know, I like to vary what I listen to and what I make as well. And what I play, you know, I try and play different types of stuff. So, yeah, I think definitely being part of that show and listening to all these different types of drum and bass helps influence what I make. So, yeah, for sure.
I think people underestimate maybe sometimes how kind of broad drum and bass can be and kind of where the different parts it takes its kind of inspiration from for so many different. I mean, myself, like I remember being in the car when I was a kid listening to Madness because my dad was such a Madness fan, and then gradually growing up, and I only really got into drum and bass say about 5-6 years ago, really, and becoming that stage, going for university and going to a few places in Nottingham and in London as well. So it's crazy how people's kind of stories intertwine and go into different areas of drum and bass and how they get there. But to obviously hear that the Radio 1 side of things and listening to so much new music influences that in that sense. But then you start your own production company and that sort of things with Elevate. I mean, how did the Elevate thing start?
Well, Shogun, I started Shogun in about, I think, 2004, something like that. And a few years later, my business partner kid came on board with it. And the label had been a sort of, you know, a real foundation of the scene, I think it's fair to say, for so long. But the style of Shogun, we didn't intend to take it this way, but it's a very liquid sort of style of drum and bass, you know, like there's a certain style. And I was getting booked more and more to do big festivals, and a lot of the music that I was playing was slightly different to what I was playing when I started Shogun. You know, it was a bit more big room, a bit more sort of like festival based music.
Yeah.
So I needed to start a label that reflected that, and, you know, that I could release my music on that I made, because my music wasn't really suiting Shogun. And, you know, the music that I was playing wasn't always on that tip. So, yeah, basically Elevate started. I think Elevate, actually, the idea was about 7 years ago.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and then so basically now I've Shogun for, you know, the more sort of deeper sort of rolling sort of drum and bass style, and then I've got the more high energy stuff on Elevate. So yeah, it's now I've got 2 labels that cover, or try and cover, as much of the sort of full spectrum of drum and bass as you can.
Yeah, I mean, that's great in itself for you, because as we talked about earlier about the control that I suppose you've got on your life a lot more now, and having 2 labels enabling you to do that. I mean, I was at the underground show you did in Village Underground earlier on. I think it was in 2019, towards the end of that year.
Oh yeah, it was February 2020, because it was one of the last shows before lockdown.
Yes, because I remember me and my friend Troy, we go to all of these shows together, and yeah, it was that, and we went to Wilkinson's at Brixton Academy. Just literally, it was those 2 shows, and then everything just shut down.
Yeah.
That moment when it shut down, for obviously someone in the arts industry, I remember the famous line being told by the government, where people like yourself are being told to retrain to get a new job and to do something else. I mean, but before you even get to that stage, when the pandemic kind of hit, what's going through your mind at this moment about how you've got to deal with the next, whatever comes next, with so much uncertainty?
It's, and I think it's important to mention a lot of my sort of fellow artists and people of the scene, and not just music artists. It's really affected, you know, I've got friends that fit festival stages who have had no work for a year. You know, it's not just the producers, the DJs, it's the people behind the scenes that help make this experience, and help, you know, they're a massive part of being able to put on a festival or a club show or whatever. And, you know, it's affected so many people in so many areas. I'm lucky because, you know, I've sat in my studio, you know, and I've made music, and I've written half an album over the time of lockdown. You know, I've continued to work. I mean, I've done a few remixes for people, and I've been lucky on that front. And I got to tour New Zealand over Christmas and New Year. I did the 2 weeks quarantine, which my agent was like, "Are you going to be out with 2 weeks quarantine?" I was like, "Mate, I'll do anything if it means I can do a show." And New Zealand,
that's just in a hotel room, isn't it? You're just a hotel room for 2 weeks. Oh.
Yeah, and I got lucky actually with the hotel. You know, I had a decent place to sort of be for 2 weeks. But incidentally, I remember that was actually a time where, so the football, if you're watching football when you're in New Zealand, and it's a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock kickoff, it's 6 o'clock in the morning that you've got to watch the game. So it was actually I was in quarantine. I was like, right, I'll watch football, there's some cricket on, you know, I'll do some work, and, you know, I did fitness in my room. You know, I just kind of had a bit of a regime for 2 weeks. But the worst thing about it was I was setting my alarm for like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was when we, as in the Arsenal, were having our worst period, and it clicked obviously on Boxing Day, right, when we beat Chelsea.
Yeah, of course.
But the 2 weeks before that was dire. So I was setting my alarm at 5 o'clock in the morning, like, to watch. You know, there was a lot of games on around that time. We had a game on every sort of 3 days.
Yeah.
And I was setting my alarm for 5 o'clock, and I was literally, it was like Groundhog Day. I'd wake up, oh, Arsenal got beat. You know, I'd wake up in the morning, Arsenal got beat. And then it would be 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be like, well, I'm up now. Well, I don't know. I've got to literally sit in this room all day. Arsenal have been beaten. I've got to analyse that, how bad we were.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the best way of spending it. But yeah, going back to the actual story, managed to get to New Zealand and came out of quarantine and managed to tour New Zealand for two weeks. I think we did the record ever club show in New Zealand. We had 7,000 people for a show with myself, Dimension, and Subfocus, and we did this amazing tour. But then I came back home, and it was like full lockdown had been sort of like, so I'd gone from this one extreme where you can go out and have a pint, you can turn up, go to work, play at festivals to thousands of people, and then I literally got off the plane, and it was like straight in a car back home, and like, you can't leave home now. And it was literally one extreme to the other. And that was almost like, people were like, oh, you're so lucky you got to go and tour New Zealand. But I was like, yeah, but I kind of wish I hadn't now, because I've gone from one extreme to the other. So yeah, I'm looking forward now after a year to, you know, shows are in the diary, and fingers crossed that we can, you know, get back to normal from end of June, hopefully in July, and things can start happening. And people need to go out, people need to go to festivals, people need to go to clubs. You know, everyone works hard in this life, in this society, and it's so important to be able to have that time to be able to go out, let your hair down, listen to some music, and have a good night. So getting that back in and watching sport, you know, it's bizarre. I'm bored now. I can't listen to the fake crowd noise. Really, it annoys me. Like
you could turn it off. Like you just turn it off.
Yeah. It's funny because I did that, and you do that, but then it's like feels like you're watching a local match, but actually you're watching the Premier League. Like when you turn off the sound. So I don't actually know what I prefer: the fake noise or no noise at all. I just can't wait to be able to be in a position again when I can go and meet my mates, travel up to London, you know, go just have a pint before the game and go and watch Arsenal again. I just cannot wait for that to happen.
Final question before we go on to kind of the more Arsenal side of things, and it's from one of our members in the chat box. It's a very simple question, or maybe there's multi levels to it. But Daniel Roberts says, "Why choose the name Friction?"
It's funny, really. I've never been that good with names. Like I'm still really bad. Like if I make a tune and I'm not sure what to call it, I will literally mess about for ages. I'm just so bad with names. And literally, I think that was when I was about 18, and I was just with some friends, and I was like, I've got a set. I had a set, you know, my first sort of DJ gig or whatever, and it was like, right, I need a name. And it was just a bunch of lads in a room throwing out names and just like, what do you call yourself? Friction? It's like, okay, then let's go with that. No, there wasn't enough friction. So there was no sort of like hidden deep story to it, really. It was just, just people throwing a few names around. That one sounded all right. So I just went with that.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So let's talk about Arsenal then. We'll get to kind of the more recent stuff and the pain that we've experienced this season. But obviously, London very much around your life. Is that kind of where Arsenal came from, or is there a family connection? How did it work?
No, I was born in like Surrey, sort of South London, sort of Surrey sort of way, and I was taken to a mate of my dad's who was a big Arsenal fan. My old man wasn't into football at all, and he was like, you know, Ronald's going to take you to a game. So this was when Arsenal were at Highbury, and I think I was super young, and he took me to a game, and I think it was Arsenal Chelsea, and I think we won 3-1. I'm pretty sure it was the days of Alan Smith, Perry Groves type era, Paul Davis. And it was just before, it was a couple of years before we beat Liverpool 2-0 and we won in the last minute with the Michael Thomas goal. And he took me to my first game and I was sold, basically. And I was a Gooner ever since that moment. And because I moved down to Brighton when I was like 20. So I've always just obviously carried on, just jump on the train. The Brighton to London train's quite easy, or a lot of the time I'm working in London, so I can catch a game. And I've just been obsessed ever since. Like one of my most horrible moments of my life is when my eldest son decided when he was about 11 to support Chelsea for a season.
God.
Yeah.
For a season? Why just a season?
Because I think he couldn't take the crap from me anymore, hearing me literally just being like, how can you do this to your father? You know, like literally
the friction between you and him just
there we go. No, it was he went when Chelsea first got money and they suddenly became half decent, you know, when they were sort of when
there's a glory hunter is what you're saying.
He was 100% glory hunter. And I battered him about it, sort of like, you know, like verbally for a year, just like, how can you do that? Arsenal's and eventually got him back. But I think that was a horrible year.
Oh, dear me, I can't imagine. Yeah, I mean, when one day, and it probably will when I end up having kids, my missus is a Charlton fan. So, and obviously her dad is already telling me that he's hell-bent on making sure my kid ends up being a Charlton fan. So we'll see how that goes. But I can't imagine Chelsea side of things I think there was a period of my childhood where I genuinely disliked Chelsea a little bit more than our other North London rivals, just because they were doing so well and Spurs weren't.
Sometimes I get that feeling. I've got some Chelsea mates that are particularly annoying as well. And you know, they don't like it when you sort of tell them the home truths about, you know, that their club's only sort of 15 years old, really.
Toddler,
exactly.
obviously Arsenal now is very different to when you talking about when you first became an Arsenal fan, leading up to '89, and then going through the '90s where it was successful under George Graham, and then the Invincibles in the early 2000s. It's very, very different now. How was kind of has, I suppose, being in the music industry and working weekends a lot, and I'm assuming, I don't know how many games you've missed through doing that, but has that helped in any way with a distraction through Arsenal's kind of poorer period, or have you suffered as much along the way?
It's a tough one, because when I first started supporting Arsenal, it was when we were just on the rise as far as into that first era, the George Graham era, which wasn't a particularly exciting brand of football, but we were dominant. Do you know what I mean? And we were such a good team. And then obviously the Arsene Wenger era was like almost another level, having an invincible team. You know, it's like one of those things when you're bantering with your mates, they can take the piss out of Arsenal as much as they want, but they didn't have an invincible team. They didn't win the league without losing a game. And they can say, oh, you had 12 draws. It doesn't matter. We did not lose. We did not lose. And, that is that level with Thierry and, Dennis Bergkamp and Pires, Vieira. These were, even Martin Keown, he annoys me now on punditry, I've got to be honest. I can't listen to him on PT Sport. That's nothing. But they were tough. The football was unreal. They took the football to the next level. And I think that the highs that I've had with Arsenal make it harder to accept what we've gone through over the past couple of seasons, because sometimes it's like, we've had false starts over the last few years where I think, oh no, it's all right now. Things are sort of starting to get, but actually I think that you can't, a lot of people blame Arsene Wenger, some people blame Emery, but yeah, there are a lot of players in there that need to go. And I think that Arteta's job is so big. People really, really, I think it's underestimated how big his job is and how tough it is, and the fact that he's come in trying to start his job in a pandemic. He got coronavirus as well. There's so many players. Let's be honest. There's probably half of that squad that he wants to get rid of.
Yeah, quite right.
There's so many, and he's in the middle of doing it. And I do think it's tough, but it is tough to take as a fan, because you're like, we're so much better than this. This club should be better. And I do think we've got some amazing players, but I still think there's like some real problems in the squad that need to be addressed. And I think that the team's almost like lopsided. And, it's great. You look at players there. It's great that we've got Aubameyang, great that we've got Lacazette. But that to me is almost a problem in itself, because I think that has caused a problem where, he's playing Aubameyang on the left wing, on the right wing sometimes. And, Aubameyang's form recently hasn't been good. But, really and truly, him or Lacazette, in my opinion, should just play in the middle. I know Orba scores goals from the left, but he should play in them. We've got great players. Pepe's just starting to really find his feet, in my opinion. I think I've seen a difference in him. Saka is obviously an unreal talent. You've got Martinelli waiting to come through. Willian I won't go into because I don't want to rant. But we've kind of like, the players are there, and there's some, to get Thomas Partey was amazing. I feel bad that he came to us in a way. He'd probably be winning the league of Atletico Madrid this season. So he obviously really wanted to come to the club. But there's some real positives there. I just think that it's gonna, I think it's gonna take a while. I can't see us being a top four title challenging team for another couple of years, if I'm honest.
Do you think, a lot of people are kind of in that sense of saying that you can't see us getting to that stage where we're competing for top four. Is there a part of you that thinks that is down to, does the blame fall at the club for that? Is that down to Mikel Arteta himself? Do you think another manager would be doing a better job than Mikel Arteta is doing? Or is it just he basically being a victim of the situation that he's had untold to him?
I think Arteta's got the potential to be a world-class manager. I think if you look at some of the things that he does, hear how the players talk about him. If you listen to how other coaches talk about him, they're hugely impressed. My only fear, I think the original plan would have been Emery was going to come in and he would have been there longer than he actually was, and eventually Arteta would have come in after having a job somewhere else. I don't think the plan was. I think the plan was to get Arteta, but I don't think we were meant to be his first head coach role. But here we are, and I think that he will get there. I just think that he has come into quite a lot. There's been a lot for him to do, more so than what he'd have wanted. You know, there's a lot of players that sort of need to go. And I think it's a difficult job. I just think it's ideally it wouldn't have been we wouldn't have been his first job. But he does some amazing stuff. I think it's amazing tactical decisions. I mean, how we won the FA Cup.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, really, because actually he did the whole 3 at the back thing, and we just basically, our football, we didn't even really have the ball much. We were just basically countering and, you know, hopefully put a good move together and counter, and that was our chance of scoring a goal. You know, we weren't in that way where we can play, but I can see us starting to play. I do think that he makes the odd decision that I'm like, you've got that one badly wrong, actually. And I think actually the West Ham game the other week was a really, really great sort of, you know, that shows
the metaphor for it. Yeah.
I didn't get that. I didn't get the team play. I don't. Orba, and I think Orba's like, he's an amazing striker, right? He's obviously over the past 10 years, he's been in the top. He's got to be top 5, top 7 strikers in the world.
Yeah.
But the way it is now is when he's on the pitch, if he doesn't score, he doesn't really contribute. And I think that one of the other guys, whether it's Saka, Pepe, Martinelli, or even Smith Rowe playing out on the left, will link our football together better and help us create chances. And then I think when Orba's out there, we don't really create chances as much. There's the overlaps. If you look at the overlaps that go on with Tierney and Smith Rowe, it's absolute class. Like the movement and everything. And I just think there's a bit of a square peg in a round hole situation there. And that's the main thing for me. I think he's either got to sell Lacazette or Orba this summer. I think you've got to sell one of them, and we can invest that into the squad in a different way, because trying to force them to play together, I know they're really good mates, but I don't think they particularly work in the team together that well.
It's an interesting point, because we were having our show yesterday was all around should we sell Lacazette, and talking to the listeners about if we should or not. And then if you do sell him, do you replace him, or do you allow someone like a Martinelli to become the more central figure in the team, which a lot of people kind of see him as a more central player for his future rather than in the wide areas. And there were rumours yesterday that supposedly we might give Lacazette a new contract. And considering the fact that we've already given Aubameyang a new deal, and now to give Lacazette a new deal after that, and he turns 30 in May, I believe. So do you think that there's necessarily, it's a case of, as you said there, we have to sell one or the other, and that's the right way to go about it? Or is there a case of saying, well, if you give Lacazette maybe a 2-year extension, then you cover that situation and it doesn't really block Martinelli, because you're not going out and then signing like a 23 to 25-year-old that would then block the path necessarily for Martinelli? So do you think it's as cut and dry, as simple as saying sell one or the other, or is there more facets to it?
I think, you know, Martinelli is coming through at a very quick rate. You know, Saka is a mad talent. You know, I mean, he's crazy. I think Pepe there's so much potential for Pepe. I mean, I just watch him sometimes. Obviously, it's massively frustrating when he, you know, gives the ball away from 3 feet. You know, and it's like, you know, I can't really. But I do think that he is understanding the Premier League, and I think he's understanding the work rate that's required for the Premier League. Yeah, and I think we're still going to see some big things from Pepe. I think he needs to play, and he needs to play on one of the flanks. And yeah, I just think we've got Balogun. You know, I think Balogun is a lot stronger player than Nketiah. I think there's the way he plays, from what I've seen, you know, the hold up play and everything. I think you've got to bring him through, keeping and bringing through. So yeah, the short answer is I think you do have to sell one, and I actually think that the club would get more money for Lacazette because he's that little bit younger. You know, was it 1 or 2 years? But I don't think it makes sense to keep both players, and you know, there's not going to be much money there, and we need Hector. It looks like he's not. I don't want to say it like I.
Would you sell him? Because a lot of people would sell him.
I would sell a Hector, and I think he probably I don't know. You get the impression he might be up for a new challenge somewhere. Doesn't look like he's got quite the same pace, and it doesn't look like he's quite as strong as he was before the injury either. So yeah, there's basically the squad still needs quite a bit of sorting out. You know, we can't. I mean, Tierney literally can't play like that every single match for a whole season. We need a backup left back. You know, do you keep Kolasinac as that backup left back? To me, he always looks better playing as a left wing back. Yeah. So you know, Cedric comes in and does well, but I don't think that he is the first team right back for Arsenal to be a top 4 club. You know, I think he's been solid, but yeah. So ultimately, there's so many questions with the squad. What's going to happen with Saliba? No one knows. I mean, obviously that video came out recently. That wasn't a great look.
Yeah, not great. I mean, what did you make of kind of how he was dealt with, I suppose, at the start of the season? Because we spent 27 million quid on this 18-year-old kid is rated to be, as people like to do in the media, call him the next Varane and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We send him back on loan because that's the only way we can get the deal done. He comes back and then he sits in the under-23s for 6 months. We could have sent him out on loan. There were talks with other clubs that we could have sent him out on loan. Do you think that falls on like Arteta, or is it Saliba's behaviour that maybe sent him that way, or is it on the club for messing that situation up?
I really don't know. It's difficult, you know, as fans, like we can give our opinion and we can sit in the pub and we can say, oh, he's rubbish, he's great, he should be there, and we can sort of like say how we'd do it if we were managers. We don't know what goes on. We can hear it, you know, you might see on Twitter, oh, someone said this, but we don't know everything that goes on behind closed doors. So it's hard to say, you know. I think he's obviously got a lot of talent and potential. I've seen videos of him playing in France, you know, but for some reason, Arteta doesn't think he's ready to be a first team squad centre back yet. Yeah. So, but I do think, I would say Arteta hasn't quite got that right, because that has been messy. And, you know, like a lot of people have been talking about it, that he should be this, he should be that, he should be playing. With the people that are like, he should be starting now. It's like, I don't think anyone can really say that. I don't think we don't have the information to know that he should be in the first team squad. But he's come, he stayed in the under-23s and now he's gone back out on loan again. It is a bit messy, so that could do with being a bit tidier, I think. But we'll see.
The other player in his position is David Luiz, who is a polarising character. But arguably, from my perspective, I think other than the mistake against Wolves, and that was a horrible, horrible game, because if we'd have won that, we'd have been in 6th, and maybe the Aston Villa result after that doesn't happen. But besides that mistake, Luiz since Christmas, and as a lot of the team has been, I think has been brilliant. I think he's been one of our better players. But now we've got the conundrum of him. His contract's expiring. He's 32, 33 years old now. Do you think it's time for Arsenal to say goodbye to him, or do you think maybe another year, considering Saliba's difficulties, maybe the right move for the Gunners?
I think I agree with you. I think that actually his performances have been good. He's the type of guy that when he makes a mistake, you really know he's made a mistake. Do you know what I mean? And I think, you know, Man City as well, that was pretty bad. But also, that's part of the problem with Arsenal. And this is when my mates say to me, you sound like such an Arsenal fan. We have had the worst decisions go against us this year. I have never, ever in my life seen anything like it. I can't believe some of the refereeing decisions that have gone against us. It's crazy. I mean, even to be fair to David Luiz, that Wolves game, forget whether it was a red card or whatever, the whistle should have blown for half time about 30 seconds earlier. You know, no one ever noticed that it was like, I can watch it, like it was like just everything's gone against us. I remember Gabriel getting sent off earlier on this season,
Southampton,
flicking the ball away, right? Yeah. I see that about 5 times a game in every Premier League game I watch. People do that. It constantly happens. Yeah. I just think so. I mean, there's so many decisions that have gone against us. So I think that actually, team-wise, we should be higher up the league, and with a bit of luck, we would have been. And we're still 10 games or 9 games to go. Is it 9 or 10? I'm not sure. 9. But like, I think we can get a little bit higher and it not be so bad. But yeah, there's, like you say, David Luiz's situation has got to be sorted out. I think I think David Luiz, you'd be best to say, go on, make this the last season and try and start bringing through these young guys. They've got to work out what they're doing with Saliba. You know, Rob Holding, some games I've thought he's been really solid. I'm not sure if his passing's quite good enough to fit in this Arsenal team.
Yeah.
Because I think the passing is, you know, they if they're going to play out from the back, you've got to have people that are competent playing out from the back. And obviously last few games, we've had a couple of little wobbles playing out from the back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's such a big job, the squad situation. Guendouzi, what are they going to do with Guendouzi?
Do you keep him?
No. I think he's an absolute.
This is really funny because I actually think the listeners are going to think I've prepped you, because it's so weird listening to how much your thoughts align with mine that I've been saying on the channel for so long about like Arteta, about the decisions, about what's gone against us. I throw also into the decisions that have gone against us, like the injuries to Thomas Partey this season. I feel that if Thomas Partey was fit all season, we would be much higher than where we are now. And like, and Guendouzi, no, see you later. It is funny, but to kind of like, the last point on Arteta is there's a big question about the Europa League, and I obviously love to be the most optimistic fan as much as possible and try and take a step back and look at the context of everything. But we should, without going too in titles, we should get past Slavia Prague. We then technically should get past one of Villarreal or Dinamo Zagreb, but then you're in a final where we probably would come up against Man United. And there's been rumours around a contract extension for Arteta. I feel that's slightly too early. But say if Arsenal managed to win the Europa League this season and you're in the Champions League next season, do you think he's then done enough to garner a new contract?
I think if Mikel Arteta wins the Europa League this season, extend his contract. I think that's, you know, if he's won a major trophy in his first 2 seasons, that is pretty amazing. It's the inconsistency. I think that's the thing. I mean, if you look at the second leg against Olympiacos the other day, I mean, I don't think I've seen us play. If that had been a good team, we would have been absolutely battered. Like literally. And it was baffling because we just played the Spurs game and played well. I mean, we should have beaten Spurs we could have scored 3 or 4 against them, really. And they're just inconsistent. That's the problem. I think that's Arteta's 2 biggest things are he's got to somehow sort that squad out, and he's got to work out the inconsistency, because I can't understand how they can go from that one extreme to another. It's crazy. But I do think there's games that we have played so well, you know, apart from Man City, we've actually done really well against the big teams this season.
And that's one of the things I think that Arteta's changed. And we've lost a lot of points against teams that we should be beating. That's probably where we've sat this season. Last question before I let you go does again come from one of our members, Owen Young. This is going to test maybe your European football knowledge a little bit. But who are your top targets for the summer window? Who do you want to see Arsenal bring in this summer?
I mean, I'd like a really strong right back, a backup left back. So I don't know if there's like big names. Obviously, we all want big names joining Arsenal, but I don't really know. I think we just need to strengthen the squad and sort the squad out. It's like, I can't see us spending 70 million, you know, on I can't say it'd be more expensive. Grealish would be probably 90 to 100 million now because he's English and all the English players are massively overpriced.
Yeah.
I'm going to be slightly boring. I'd love us to sign Odegaard, like, properly.
I don't think that's boring. I think that's spot on.
You know what I mean? I think that what I really love, I love seeing him and Smith Rowe in the same team, because teams are going to basically sit really deep and they're going to have, you know, 10 men in the last third and they're going to put a wall up against us. There's no point having quick, pacey players because there's no room to run at people. So we need to have people that can unlock. And I think that you need to have those guys there. And I think that would be to get Odegaard, another right back, another left back. And we do need to work the midfield situation out, because if they get rid of Guendouzi, we've got Partey, Xhaka. I think El Neni, if he's happy to sit in as a reserve player, will probably stay. But the midfield is short. Ceballos, I think Ceballos is a wonderful technical footballer, but he's not right for the Premier League for me, and he's not right for Arsenal. We need sturdy players that are going to take the team forward. And I think that was the thing with Partey. He is an unbelievable. I mean, he's more skillful than I even realised. He's unbelievable. The way he can intercept and pluck the ball up, get it under control, and shift it forward quickly is amazing. And Xhaka sometimes, you know, has really. I know how consistent he is as far as he can play game after game after game, but I worry that he doesn't move the ball quick enough for me.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people have a go at Xhaka. I think he's a good player, but he needs to sort of move it quicker. So ultimately, yeah, we need to strengthen the midfield, sign Odegaard, right and a left back, and I think we'd be all right.
Yeah. It's so easy. We'll be fine.
I mean, I've probably said about 5 players, but yeah, it's so, because, you know, normally it's like, who would be the big name that you could get? But, you know, I'd take Odegaard. I think he is a big name. Yeah, I think he is a big name. I think it's mad if, from his point of view, yeah, Madrid is one of the biggest club in the world, or the biggest club in the world, but he's played, like, the amount of games he's played since he's been there is unreal. Like, he's hardly literally played at all. And is he going to play if Zidane's still coach next season?
No. And they don't even play over 10, so that's another issue. So yeah, I think it makes the most sense for him to look at Arsenal as a place he can go to. And if we can pull that signing off, I think it'd be massive for us going forwards. But I won't take up any more of your time, because I know I've been taking liberties with you, but I really appreciate the time this afternoon, mate. It's been absolutely fantastic having you on the show. I really appreciate it.
All good, mate. I'm happy to talk. I'll talk about Arsenal for hours, so it's all good with me. But yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Really enjoyed it.
No problem at all. Friction's link to his Twitter is in the description, so make sure you go give him a follow and check out his music. If you're not a drum and bass convert yet, trust me, you will be once you've listened to some of his stuff. And of course, all of the Shogun and Elevate stuff as well. Is there some new stuff coming out this year? Can we expect some new music?
Yeah, I've got a new single coming out in April, so that's in about 3 weeks' time.
Nice.
New track called Falling Down. And yeah, just regular music and just trying to get, well, I've been in lockdown for a year doing nothing but making music, so I need to release it now, and I need to get back into some clubs and some festivals and get back to doing what I love.
For sure, as I'm sure everyone else will agree to too. We'll see everyone tomorrow. We're doing an interlull quiz because, I mean, what can you do in lockdown and during an international break? So we're going to try and break up the boredom with a little bit of a funny quiz tomorrow evening, and then back to the usual scheduling of the interviews and the reactions to the game. So make sure you tune in for that. If you've enjoyed the show, please drop a like on the video. Go give us a follow at the Gooner Talk TV, and of course Friction as well. His link in the description. We'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.